is Morning Crossfire on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
All right, we're still here. About a brief break, but of course, today's Health Thursday, and every single Thursday, we talk about your health. Continuing our conversation from last week on genetically modified food and crops. Right here on the Morning Crossfire, last week we asked for your opinion, asking you if you would like or you support the introduction or the approval by the federal government of genetically modified crops and of course, food in the country, particularly the Tella maize is what we're talking about last week. And the majority of you said no. This morning, we have a guest joining us on the program to tell us more about GM foods and crops and tell us what he thinks about the approval by the federal government for the commercial release and use of these GM food and crops, particularly the Tella maize in Nigeria. I'd like to introduce our guest this morning, but please be informed you can call us on the numbers we usually advertise, 0201 465 0201 277 0993. I'm trying to get to terms with the new arrangement. 0201 277 0993, 0201 277 1993, 0201 277 2993, or 0201 277 993. We're very glad to hear from you. Our guest is Professor Qrisstuberg Amua. He's the Executive Director of the Center for Food Safety and Agricultural Research, CEFSA. He's a professor of inorganic, bioinorganic chemistry. That's inorganic and bioinorganic chemistry. Head Department of Natural Sciences and Dean of Student Affairs at the British Canadian University, Obudu, Cross River State, Nigeria. He holds the professor and director of the fledgling Center for Food Safety and Agricultural Research, CEFSA, that's what it's known at, also at the British Canadian University, Obudu. Professor Amua is a principal investigator at Chemistry for Health, Environment, Materials, Agriculture, Toxicology, and Energy. That's a multi-university and multi-center research group. He is also a certified bioresource utilization and ecological conservation and a fellow of Hubei Vocational Training College of Biotechnology in Wuhan, China. Prof, you know, when we hear Wuhan, we get afraid. But I know that there's no reason to be afraid. Is it the same lab that the world-famous Wuhan lab? Is this that one?
That lab was also part of it.
Okay. Maybe we'll have that conversation another day. All right. He's a thriving university research, teaching, and academic and administrative leadership career, both in Nigeria and in the United Kingdom, spanning a combined duration of 25 years. And Professor Qrisstuberg Amua served as a pioneer executive director of the Benue Center for Enterprise Development and Innovation, a technology innovation hub of the Benue State Government of Nigeria from 2020 to 2021. And he's currently overseeing the Benue Swine and Crop Improvement Project at Yandev in Boko local government area. Prof, before we get into GMOs, you overseen this project, the Benue Swine and Crop Improvement Project. Some of for all the stories on the news this morning is about food security. And farmers over here, especially in Mile 12, saying the government needs to protect farmers and that those in southern Nigeria need to engage in more farming because food availability is reducing due to insecurity in the northern part of the country. What's the food security situation in Benue State in terms of those farmers who normally would feed the food basket of the nation?
Well, good morning, Kofi, once again, and thank you. Thank you, dear listener. I've always said and opined that the food security or food insecurity in Benue State and in the larger part of the country has been orchestrated. It's a deliberate orchestration. But having said that, it is orchestrated using insecurity. Attacks on farmers, coordinated attacks on farmers, has orchestrated food insecurity, especially that these farmers have been displaced, have been killed on their farmlands, and have been sent out of their ancestral farmlands where they do much of their farming. And remember, these are the people that feed the larger part of Nigeria. So having been chased from 2009 onwards, having been chased away from largely from their farmlands, one expects that what the perpetrators orchestrated, which perhaps the rest of the country was sleeping over, was to create a scenario that we are right in the middle of today, where food yields, food outputs would reduce as a result of diminished activities of the farmers on their farmlands. But despite that, there has been a lot of food produced, even in Benue, where I reside and do much of my academic work and research. There is still a lot of food. I also teach and supervise graduate students at a World Bank Center of Excellence at the Benue State University. It is called the Center for Food Technology and Research. It's dedicated to mitigation of post-harvest losses. And the whole concept of that center was as a result of the observation in the field that there was humongous food losses due to post-harvest food wastages due to post-harvest losses. And that was what led to the conception of that center. And largely what we do is to train students in different and various post-harvest loss mitigation strategies and technologies. That is to tell you that despite the harassment, the killings, and the displacement of farmers from their farmlands in Benue, in Taraba, in Nasarawa, in most of the northern states, including Niger, Jigawa, Katsina, despite all of that, there is still a lot of food that is wasting in the farmlands, because sometimes these farmers go in there, cultivate, but during harvest, and that has been a perennial experience, during harvest, you see that the marauding bandits and herdsmen come. Of course, ostensibly they are sponsored. It's like a choreography. They know when to come, and the farmers are killed, so they can go back to harvest. And then even the farmers that have managed to harvest their crops from the field, there is a serious dearth of infrastructure, especially road networks from farm to town. Therefore, it's been pretty difficult. And then, to compound it all, the recent exacerbation of macroeconomic somersaults, policy somersaults, that have given rise to uncontrolled inflation and the hike in prices of things generally, especially energy and transportation, that has made it very difficult for farmers to even bring out their crops, their produce, onto the markets. And of course, because for people that come, the merchants that come to procure these foods come largely from the southern part of Nigeria and some other cosmopolitan centers in the northern part of Nigeria, like FCT and Kano and Kaduna. The information, the news about insecurity, the propagation, the promotion of insecurity scares even buyers from coming in there because they wouldn't want to risk their lives.
Okay.
And that, having said all of that, all these things orchestrate in a coordinated manner the current food insecurity and food scarcity that we are seeing in the country today.
Right, that's quite a lot going on there. But you're saying that there's still food, and we're even wasting the food, and it's about conserving the food that we have. Well, we're aware, and I'm sure you're very more aware than even me, that the federal government of Nigeria in January this year, it was revealed, approved the commercial release of genetically modified insect-resistant and drought-related tolerant maize variety known as Tella maize. And this is a genetically modified maize, the second that Nigeria has commercialized after the BT cowpea. Tell us about this Tella maize, Prof.
Yeah, before I go into the the maize thing proper, the Tella maize proper, it's important for our listener to understand, to know that this particular release, the writer release, was done on Thursday, 11th of January, 2024. That was early this year.
Oh, sorry,
but shortly before that was...
What release are you referring to?
The Tella maize.
Okay, there was a release on Thursday.
Yes, on Thursday.
Okay, all right.
11th of January, 2024. Yeah. Now, what happened coincidental, that looked like a coincidence, was that in the same month of January, one of the very significant and major grains or cereals market center, commercial center in north central Nigeria, which is in Mangu local government in Plateau State, was attacked by bandits. And during that attack, over 248,000 metric tons of maize were destroyed. And then it became curious that in the same month, Tella maize was released. And 4 varieties, some as 72T, some as 73T, some as 74T, and some as 75T were the varieties that were released.
Okay. Now, when you say, Prof, when you say it became curious, how do you mean?
Yeah, because the propagation of Tella maize came with the promotion of some touted outstanding characteristics, leading amongst which was high yield, bumper harvest.
Yeah, you said touted, but you're a professor. You know that all this is born out of research. It's actually been researched and proven that it has high yields, it's drought resistant.
Incidentally, there is ample research publication out there that has proven that that is a hoax. Because there is something we call good agronomic practices that all come together to give rise to high yield. For example, you cannot plant Tella maize in a very poor agronomical practice and expect that kind of yield. You cannot plant Tella maize in a very poorly fertilized soil and expect that kind of yield. But having said that, there has been research that compared the yield of this genetically modified maize. What you see called Tella maize is what I call a baptismal name. Tella is the same maize that was experimented or used, deployed in other climes, and eventually rejected.
But it's been deployed in South Africa and it's being used in South Africa.
Yes, and the comparison is that the maize that is cultivated organically on good agronomic practices has yielded higher yield than the genetically modified maize. That's the output of research. But interestingly, a lot of what you see or hear about these genetically modified poisons, I call them poisons because I know what is inside. I'm traditionally a chemist, and I moved into my research, took me into experimental medicine. So I know what's inside. What information that the public is mostly fed with are information that are propagated by the promoters, the designers, because these are designer foods.
All right. So this is is this conspiracy theory that you believe, or this is something that is born out of research? Because when it gets to conspiracies, sometimes it's a difficult terrain. It's a tricky terrain. So we have to be...
Not at all. There's nothing about conspiracy here. It's born out of research output. The papers are there. The information is there. The publications are there in reputable journals, peer-reviewed. So it's not a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. Secondly, you see, as a researcher myself, I've supervised graduate students, I've supervised PhDs that have worked in the area of agronomy. I've supervised a couple of PhDs in agronomy. I've supervised a couple of PhDs in agrochemical technology. And there are feedbacks that we get from research both in the field and in the laboratories. So these are not conspiracy theories. But let me say this, often people who want to hide the truth from the consumer flies the flag of conspiracy theory. It's not a conspiracy theory.
All right. So yes. So you're saying this. You're saying this Tella maize. was released, and in the federal government approved the release. We got that information in January. But some of the attributes of this Tella maize, from what I have read, is that it's resistant or tolerant of drought. So even if there's no water, there's no rain, it can still grow. That is also resistant to pests.
How does that physiology work?
Pests. Like the stem borer pest, the 4-army worm, and therefore it will give you a higher yield. While the natural ones are not resistant to pests, Professor.
Yeah. Recently, I was on a course in China, in Wuhan, and Wuhan is in Hubei province, and Hubei is the agricultural headquarters or nerve center of China that feeds almost the entirety of the Chinese population.
That's where COVID-19 is said to have come from.
Exactly. Yeah. That's where COVID-19 is said to have come from. Now, what I understood from my research and my training in China was that the Chinese have adopted a lot of biological and biopesticide pest control measures, not genetically modified organisms and controlled with inorganic pesticides like we see with the current thing. Now, let me help you out. They have said that the Tella maize is resistant to moderate drought. What happens in the plant physiology when there is no water? This is basic biology and basic biochemistry. Now, if there is no water, how does the plant transport nutrients from the soil? Because water is what conveys the nutrients from the ground, from the soil, into the plant through the plant vasculature.
Okay, Professor, I'm sorry.
Plant.
I want to hear some more about what you're saying, because now you're going into the genetic modification and you're asking questions. I want to hear more of those questions. We'll take an advert break. When we come back, we'll talk some more.
Ida of trading himself. James, hello.
Susan, I beg. Say you dey whine me.
For where? You who no longer depend solely on your salary.
So you people trade and don't carry us along in this office, Abi?
Jerry, now you dey talk like this? Who doesn't want an extra stream of income? But I'm still looking for better trading conditions, I beg. Fast execution of my trades and possibly an account where swap no go carry all my profits where I no know.
Guy, hfm.com.
For me, I wouldn't mind better spreads at all, and it won't be a bad idea to be able to make withdrawals in a flash.
All we want is transparency and great customer service.
Guys, I said hfm.com.
Which one is hfm.com again?
Switch to HFM today to enjoy ultra-fast execution, 1 to 2,000 leverage, tight spreads, swap-free, and more.
Guy, show us the way now.
Wait, are you sure deposits and withdrawals are sharp?
I said hfm.com. Visit www.hfm.com. HFM, online trading at its finest.
Enjoy the delicious creamy goodness of cowbell. Cowbell contains Vitarich and vitamin B9, which supports brain development. Use cowbell in your tea, cereal, pap, and other meals of choice. Cowbell, so creamy, so good.
5 Alive Poppy. So much pulp. So many ways to pop it. He gulps it. She chews it. He slurps it. Filled with pulp in every bowl. Everyone pops it their way. So, how do you pop it?
Chinedu! Don't worry, Ma. He'll be home on time, just like his dad. I'm cooking their favorite jollof with Sonia tomato mix. They are here.
Hey, is that jollof ready?
Right on time. Your loved ones will always rush home for tasty meals prepared with Sonia tomato mix. It's so good eating together with a family.
Yes, Ma.
Sonia tomato mix brings you together. Proudly Nigerian.
Here you go, dear.
Mom, you didn't add milk.
No need to. Taste it and see why.
Wow, but how?
Is it milky?
Very.
Is it creamy?
Yes.
That's Milo 3-in-1 milky and creamy for you. It's so milky. I don't need to add more milk.
I love it, Mommy.
Give your kids the new Milo 3-in-1. Milky and creamy. It's truly milky. It contains calcium to help your champ win every day. Milo, energy to go further.
Milo! Well man and well woman. Are you tired and run down? Well man and well woman from Vitabiotics UK provide your 1-a-day tablets with all the benefits for healthy living.
Wellman has been specially developed for men to maintain general health and vitality.
Well Woman is a blend of minerals and vitamins at optimal levels, specifically designed for busy modern women.
Make a healthy change today with Wellman and Well Woman. Available in all good pharmacies nationwide.
Health and vitality.
Mommy, my teacher said 90% of my brain will develop by the time I am 5.
Really? What else did she say?
She said I need iron in my food for my brain to grow well.
Oh, very true. And that's why I give you Cerelac Junior every day, which provides half of your daily iron needs.
And Cerelac Junior tastes so good.
Cerelac Junior with Iron Plus. It's all good.
They care about my mental health, fitness and healthcare. Good nutrition, healthy living means a lot to them. That's why I chill with peace of mind. No worries anytime. Cause when I look back, I know AXA Mansard's got my back. Yeah. So what are you waiting for? Sign up and join the squad.
Enjoy more wellness for less with AXA Mansard individual, family, or corporate health plans. Visit www.axamansard.com or call 0700 AXA Mansard to get started now.
To cook correct food, they always give me joy. That's why anytime when they cook like this, I they always season them with no cubes. Come add correct vegetables inside. Ugu, tatasheo, shombo, onions. No one I know they put. Now he make my pikin them, they always enjoy my cooking.
Daddy, I never will. I want more.
You see? Sama all your food with correct vegetables. Come season them with no cubes for that to get delicious taste. Today, chop better.
Welcome back to your number one talk, news, and sports station. This is Nigeria Info.
What is health? It's more than the absence of illness. It's a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. But let's delve deeper. Health is the heartbeat of life. It's the rhythm that keeps us moving forward. The pulse that echoes our vitality. It's a symphony of balance and harmony, resonating in every aspect of our existence. Health is a silent conductor, orchestrating the dance between the body and mind. It's the energy that propels us towards our dreams and aspirations. It is the foundation upon which we build our futures. So, what is health to you? Join me, Kofi Bartels, this and every Thursday for Health Thursday, 8 a.m. on the Morning Crossfire as we explore important issues affecting your health. Only on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
This is your number one station.
99.3.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk. This is Morning Crossfire on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Welcome back at Still the Morning Crossfire right here on 99.3 Nigeria Info, asking for your thoughts. Are you welcoming of genetically modified crops, genetically modified food, genetically modified organisms in Nigeria or not? Want you to call and share your thoughts with us. 0201-277-0993, 0201-277-0993, 0201-277-2993, and 0201-277-3993. My name is Kofi Bartels, and there's a Morning Crossfire. Our guest this morning is a professor. Here's Qrisstuberg, Amua, and joins us via Zoom. Prof, I think you're reaching us from Benue State, I believe, where you mainly do your work. You're an international person. And before we went on the break, Prof was giving us his questions. He had some questions about how the Tella maize, which is what the federal government has approved for commercial release, how it's able to achieve some of the benefits that it started to have. For instance, this Tella maize is said to be drought resistant, is also said to have a natural resistance to, well, not natural, but an inbuilt resistance to certain pests. So you don't need pesticide for it. and it guarantees bumper harvest. So, Prof, please continue. You're asking questions. For instance, instead of asking how does it retain water so that even if there's no rain or water, it can still grow. Yeah, please go on.
Yeah, that leads to a very easy identification that there is something wrong somewhere. But permit me to take you back a little. This Tella maize is reported by the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria to have been developed by Institute of Agricultural Research. That's what the federal government told us. But if you look at the release notes, it's in collaboration with African Agricultural Technology Foundation, AATF, with a campus in Kenya, and then with also Bayer Crop Science. Bayer Crop Science is found in South Africa. It's an offshoot of Bayer, which is a transformation of Monsanto. Monsanto were the original patent holder of this material. And you can go on that sheet and see a lot of collaborations, and it answers something very important, a very important question, because we were asking, IAR that is said to have developed this Tella maize, where are the laboratory study used to test for the safety of these things? Now, let me get...
That's the Institute of Agricultural Research in Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria.
Zaria. Where are the laboratories? Because as an academic with 25, 26 years of experience in the Nigerian university system, I know what we are facing as a researcher. I know what we are facing with equipments, with scientific and analytical equipments to conduct the kind of research that should warrant an approval, a fiat approval for consumption by over 200 million Nigerians. Now, typically, genetic engineering involves manipulating an organism's genetic material, which is known as the genome, in the laboratory by the insertion of one or more new pieces of DNA, or by the modification of one or more of the base unit letters of the genetic code. Now, this essentially reprograms the cells of the genetically modified organism, in this case, the Tella maize, to make a new protein or to modify the structure and function of an existing protein. So, as it is reported, genetic modification confers new properties or traits that are not naturally present in the organism. In this case, they talk of transferring of genes from related or totally unrelated organisms. That is what they will not tell you. They also modify the information in that gene. It is called gene editing. And then it also involves, in some cases, moving or deleting or multiplying genes within a living organism, or splicing together pieces of existing genes, or constructing new ones. Now, this has far-reaching implications. These proteins are the ones that confer information and transfer information from one generation to another generation. Now, what we have in Nigeria and what we are saying, the questions we are asking that are so disconcerting, is that who developed this? Is it truly IAR? Because we are seeing something that we should be the ones that should be shouting conspiracy, conspiracy, because it is told us that this is developed in Nigeria, and anything that has to do with genetic modification can easily be looked as, or can easily be, and rightfully so, be considered as gain of function research. That's what we saw in Wuhan, in China. Genetic modification is what they did for the COVID virus, to gain function, to become that infectious as it was said to be. Now, that having said that, this has some implications on strategic national security.
Before you go on, Prof, so you're asking questions about how will the crop retain water, or how will it last and survive in drought? Okay, but also, are you also asking yourself how it'll ward off pests? For instance, because what we read, from what I read last week to our listeners, there's an inbuilt sort of pesticide that the pests will not want to eat the crops because of that, the corn.
You see,
so is that worrying to you?
That is what I'm talking about. When this is incorporated into the DNA of an organism, genetically modified genes modify the functional characteristics. And chief among the traits is insect resistance, or herbicide, or end herbicide resistance. Now, how does this work? One approach is that the GM crop expresses certain proteins that are designed to kill insects that try to eat the crops or to make the crop tolerant to a herbicide. Now, one of the technology they used was extraction of a gene from a bacterium called Bacillus thuringiensis. That gene is what they call BT toxin, or Bacillus thuringiensis toxin, which they incorporated into the crop. That when the insects try to eat the crop, that gene helps, confers the ability to literally burst open the alimentary canal or the digestive system of the insect and kills that insect. That is one approach. Another approach is to also to insert a gene that helps the crop to manufacture its own pesticide, like glyphosate. That is why glyphosate has become so popular. Now, let me tell you something about that in a bit. These companies that are promoting, manufacturing, designing these genetically modified crops were originally agrochemical companies like Monsanto, like Dow Chemicals, like Syngenta. They were all agrochemical companies. And their major products were herbicides and some pesticides. Now, what they did was that as they developed glyphosate, which is a broad spectrum herbicide that could kill both narrow leaf and broadleaf weeds, these herbicides began to adversely also kill the crops that they were meant to protect from weeds. And that gave rise for them to develop a method of helping the crop to resist the application of these herbicides. So now what happens is that apart from inserting the gene to express some insecticidal properties that we deter the pest from eating the crop, they also engineered these crops to express the gene that will express the protein that will resist the direct application of herbicide like glyphosate, which is found in Roundup. Now, what that implies, and that is the worrying aspect of it, is that essentially consumers may inadvertently be consuming these herbicides.
Let me just try and break it down so we understand. So you're saying that the Tella maize has developed with the genetic modification. It has some proteins were introduced through gain of function methods, that those proteins can possibly act as a resistance to herbicide. So that means that when the herbicide is applied to the maize, it won't kill the maize. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Okay. It won't kill the maize, it will kill the weed. But because the maize plant is a vascular plant, and it also has a mesoporous structure, part of the residues of the herbicides are absorbed into the plant, into the crop. And residues remain there, and we have found them through research. We have found out through research that eventually, the residues, the herbicides, end up on the menu table and consumers eat them. And that is what is giving rise to the extrapolation of those degenerative, non-communicable diseases.
Okay, so Prof, we'll come to the effects very shortly. Now, talking about the introduction of bacterial toxins, for want of a better explanation, something we talked about last week. When we hear the word toxin, it connotes a negative. When I think of, look at the definition of toxin. Toxins connote something negative or harmful to the human body. But these bacterial toxins, are they good toxins? Or do we have something like good toxins that may not harm human beings if they consume them? Because you're talking about these toxins that can serve as pesticide, in the maize.
Through research and empirically, toxins are toxins. They are toxic. They harm humans. And that is what we are saying. The research is proving, is throwing up information that these foods are increasing the incidence and appearance of strange diseases, new diseases, and some old diseases too early in the lifespan, in the life cycle of consumers, and thereby reducing the lifespan of the public who consume these foods. And this can be traceable, and this is actually traceable to this kind of information, genetic information, like these toxins that are incorporated.
Is it something based on research, or is something based on research from where?
Yes,
that
it is something based on research from the greater utilization of genetically modified foods and their concomitant herbicides and toxins occurs in the United States of America. And there are tons and tons of research from that climb that has shown empirically the progression of diseases as a result of these.
What diseases are we talking about here?
Hypertension or cardiovascular, the whole combo of cardiovascular dysfunctionalities, diabetes mellitus, organ failure, chief amongst which is liver dysfunction and kidney dysfunction, kidney failure, and then the different kinds of cancers like breast cancer cell lines, because of course, the herbicide that is majorly used is glyphosate, manufactured by these same companies, and glyphosate is a promoter of estrogen, and estrogen also promotes the development of cancer cell lines, particularly breast or feminine cancers. The same glyphosate also promotes the testicular and what do you call it? Prostate abnormalities, tumors, and cancers. There are research. There's one prominent research that was done by Professor Saralini in France and co. Saralini et al. Demonstrated some medium-term exposure of laboratory animals to these genetically modified maize and the glyphosate herbicide over a period of 2 or 2.5 years in France. And the results were very clear that these things were inducing large mammary tumors and testicular tumors and even gastrointestinal tumors in those laboratory rats. In experimental medicine, we use laboratory rat species that are similar to the mammalian species that are similar to humans. So the research are there. If it was not for want of time, I could begin to open my system and begin to read them out for you.
All right. Prof, I just want to ask you. So, is it that the federal government is not aware of these? Because I know we have the National Biotechnology Agency, for one, if I'm not wrong about the correct words to use there. We have the National Biotechnology Agency. National Biosafety Management Agency. I'm sorry about that. Which granted the approval for this improved varieties of the Tella maize. They said the research was led by the Institute of Agricultural Research, Samaru, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. You've questioned that. But if we have all these agencies, the National Biosafety Management Agency, and all that, and other agencies of the federal government, like the National Committee on Naming, Registration, and Release of Crop Varieties, Livestock, Breeds, and Fisheries, is it that they're not aware of these dangers, or maybe you are, you are just escalating these some of these things out of fear?
Not out of fear.
So is it that the federal government is not aware of these dangers?
I think to be fair to them, I should presume that they are not aware. But just last week, I was at the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria. Remember, all the National Agricultural Research Institutes have recently been collapsed into the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria. And first-hand information I got from the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria in Abuja was that they were not carried along the development and propagation or promotion of these Tella maize. They were not carried along. So they are not aware. That is the Central Agricultural Research Council Institute or Assembly for the federal government. Secondly, you will observe that on the list of the release notes, these things come from the promoters of these genetically modified organisms. And remember, let's not miss a very salient point. They own the patent. These seeds are engineered or programmed to be sterile, not to be replanted upon harvest. That gives them
All right, the internet has frozen, Prof. I don't know, maybe he has go coming through his device. 0201-277-0993, 0201-277-1993, 0201-277-2993. Okay, Prof, sorry, we you got frozen a bit. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very clearly.
Okay, yes. So you were saying?
Okay, I was saying that to be fair to the federal government, I think there has been a lot of commercially induced, promoted misinformation or procured ignorance. Procured in the sense that the promoters are the manufacturers, they are the patent holders, they are the ones that own the property rights to these seeds. And they're the ones that have been funding the promotion of these things. So they promote what they think the federal government should know.
But Prof, in reality, is it possible that this is all about just making sure that Africans, Nigerians have better yields, food security, using the gift of science that God has given man the knowledge to have? For instance, I want to turn your attention to a tweet by the Minister of State for Health, Dr. Tunja Lausa, recently, which you may be aware of. He says, and I quote, biotechnology holds immense promise for the advancement of healthcare, agriculture, environmental sustainability, and various other sectors. It has the potential to revolutionize our method of approach to challenges and provide effective solutions if harnessed in a responsible and safe manner. I was pleased to attend the Biotechnology Safety Stakeholders Forum today, aiming to discuss the influence and benefits of genetically modified crops and animals on farming, crop production, and food scarcity. And blah, blah, blah. It says a lot about what the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare are going to collaborate with the Federal Ministry of Environment and all that. They call, they're going to push what they call, well, let me read it. It says, in adherence with the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare 4-points agenda, we're going to collaborate synergistically with the Federal Ministry of Environment, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, National Biotechnology Development Agency, and the National Biosafety Management Agency to push forward the One Health approach. The One Health approach, which favors an integrated, unifying approach to sustainably balance and optimize the health of people, animals, and ecosystem as they are closely linked and interdependent. What do you make of this?
I think that ministry is not serving the interest of the Nigerian public. The question to ask him is how? What research infrastructure? Remember, I mentioned something to you with respect to gain of function. I also should call your attention to the fact that from the 1960s, the World Bank, the United Nations, and a host of their agencies, and inclusive of so-called American or Western philanthropy foundations such as the Ford Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they began to focus on what they saw as a problem of burgeoning third world numbers, population decrease. Now, when you make reference to World Bank,
that is your view. That's your personal view.
No, it's not my personal view. I'm actually reading from research information. It's not my personal view. I can cite the research for you.
Please cite if
I
you
can
want.
cite the research.
Yeah, go on, cite it.
Yeah. So you see what happened. It's even from the BBC.
Prof, you said your center in Benue, where you're teaching students how to minimize food waste, is funded by the World Bank. You said it here. It's funded by the World Bank.
Yes.
It means you also pay, but you don't say anything bad with that. But you're still blaming the same World Bank for wanting to reduce the population of Africa.
I see everything bad with it because I can tell you, he who funds research calls the outcome of the research.
But you're working for a World Bank funded center.
Yes,
in Benue State.
Because that is the structure. I'm a university lecturer.
But from what you said, what they're doing is good. They're trying to minimize waste, and you see nothing wrong with that. But you're blaming the World Bank.
No. See, what they are doing is uncalled for. It is because the federal government has abdicated its responsibility of funding tertiary research in the universities. That is why we are always going cap in hand. But I tell you, and I've just made a fundamental statement, he who pays the piper calls the tune. That means, for example, if I'm talking about food today, the Nigerian public are not homogeneous. And in medicine, in nutrition, there is also something known as food allergies. What may be good for your digestion may not be good for me. But genetically modified organisms are promoting monocropping. Is that the kind of research?
It seems the Prof has been frozen. We have a call on the line, 99.3. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Welcome. Very quickly, please.
This market woman.
Good morning.
See, Kofi, let me tell you, this thing they are promoting to us is not good for us at all. I don't need to even go to school when you say plants does not need water and all the things that God created to give that plant good things that will go for my body and all of them will die. I don't need to go to school to know this thing is destruction. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you calling in. Prof, we're out of time. I just want to give you a final sentence in 1 minute, please, or in 30 seconds. What do you have to say before? What can Nigerians do? What should the federal government do? What should the National Assembly do? Very quickly, please.
Organisms in crops in agriculture are a great in a hurry to go ahead and approve their commercialization or their proliferation. We cannot put the done. Countries in Europe and other climes are banning them outrightly because of research. Our National Assembly should not rely on promoters, procured minds, procured researchers from the Western climes to come and tell us in them. We have research, both local research that I personally have conducted that has proven that these things are bringing biological weapons in rights.
All right, Prof, I thank you so much. Professor Qrisstuberg, Amua, Executive Director, Center for Food Safety and Agricultural Research, CEFA. I appreciate your time, sir.
What takes a plate of jollof rice to the next level of goodness? Is it when it is cooked with no seasoning cubes for that sumptuous taste? Or when you serve it with correct Nigerian salad, cabbage, carrot, lettuce, and a bit of kidney beans?
It's both. Season your jollof with the rich taste of Knorr cubes and serve with plenty of vegetables. So go ahead and elevate your meals.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.